Did you know that there exists a level of empathy so elevated, so refined, and so profoundly developed that Carl Jung himself considered it almost dangerous? Not to the person who possesses it, but to anyone who dares to manipulate or deceive them. Most empathic individuals spend their entire lives trapped in a cycle of self-sacrifice, emotional exhaustion, and the relentless feeling that their sensitivity is a curse rather than a gift. They absorb the pain of others like sponges, giving endlessly while slowly depleting their own emotional reserves. But what if I told you that this is not the destination of the empathic journey? What if the path doesn't end in burnout and depletion, but instead culminates in something extraordinary? Something that psychologists and scholars of the human mind consider one of the rarest and most powerful psychological states a person can ever reach. This final destination has a name. It is called the Sophia Stage. Few people ever reach it. Most empaths never even know it exists. But those who do arrive at this threshold undergo a profound transformation that permanently alters how they perceive the world, how they interact with others, and most importantly, how they relate to themselves. They stop being victims of their own sensitivity and become something altogether different. Figures of unshakable wisdom, quiet authority, and an almost magnetic form of influence that cannot be manufactured, bought, or faked. Today, you are going to discover exactly why the Sophia Stage is considered the most powerful state of the human mind, what it truly means to reach it, and whether you yourself may already be on the path to activating it within your own psyche. Stay with me, because what you are about to learn may permanently change the way you understand your own emotional nature and your potential. To understand the power of the Sophia Stage, we must first be willing to challenge everything we think we know about empathy itself. When most people hear the word empathic, a very specific image comes to mind. Someone gentle, someone sensitive, someone who cries at movies and feels overwhelmed in crowded places. Someone who gives more than they receive and who always puts others first, sometimes to the point of complete self-erasure. This image is not entirely wrong, but it is deeply incomplete. It describes only one phase of the empathic journey, and the earliest phase at that. Carl Jung, the Swiss psychiatrist and founder of analytical psychology, understood something that most modern conversations about empathy miss entirely. The capacity for deep emotional connection and sensitivity is not a fixed trait. It is a developmental process. It evolves. It matures. And when it reaches its highest possible expression, it transforms from a vulnerability into something that more closely resembles a superpower. Jung identified a process of psychological evolution that he described through the concept of the anima, the feminine principle within the psyche. He traced this evolution through 4 distinct stages, each representing a more complex, more integrated, and more powerful form of emotional and spiritual awareness. The final of these 4 stages, which Jung named after the Greek goddess of divine wisdom, is the Sophia Stage. And while Jung's original framework was developed specifically in the context of the masculine psyche and its inner feminine dimension, modern psychology has expanded this model to apply universally to any individual who is engaged in the deep, often painful, always transformative work of emotional and psychological self-development. What makes the Sophia Stage so extraordinary is not merely the level of empathy it represents. It is the quality of that empathy, disciplined, boundaried, discerning, and rooted in a clarity of perception that most people never develop. When an empath reaches this stage, their sensitivity no longer functions as an open wound. Instead, it becomes what we might describe as intelligent filtration, a capacity to feel deeply while simultaneously maintaining an unshakable sense of self. The boundaries they establish are not walls built out of fear or pain. They are sophisticated psychological membranes, structures that allow genuine connection while preventing exploitation and emotional contamination. And here is where it gets truly fascinating. An empath at the Sophia stage possesses a form of moral and emotional authority that is extraordinarily difficult to challenge or undermine. Not because they are aggressive or intimidating in the conventional sense, but because they operate from a position of such profound self-knowledge, such deep psychological integration, that manipulation simply has nowhere to take hold. They see too clearly. They understand too much, and their very presence has a way of making pretense and deception feel not merely ineffective, but almost pointless. Section 1. The Path of the Anima. Jung's 4 stages of psychological evolution. To fully appreciate what the Sophia stage represents, we need to walk the entire path that leads to it. Jung described the evolution of the anima, and by extension, the development of emotional wisdom in any person, as a journey through 4 progressively deeper and more integrated stages. Each stage represents not just a different level of emotional capacity, but a fundamentally different relationship with oneself, with others, and with reality itself. Stage 1. Eva, the instinctive self. The first stage Jung identified is named after Eve, the archetypal figure of pure instinct, biological drive, and primordial connection to the material world. At this stage, emotional life is largely reactive and unexamined. The person in the Eva stage operates primarily from basic needs, impulses, and instincts. They are not unfeeling, quite the opposite. But their emotional responses are raw, unfiltered, and largely unconscious. They feel deeply, but they have little capacity to observe or understand what they are feeling. Emotion drives behavior directly, without much reflection or self-awareness intervening. In the context of empathy, the Eva stage represents a person who is deeply affected by the emotional states of those around them, absorbing moods, energy, and distress without any real capacity to distinguish between their own emotional experience and what they are picking up from others. They don't yet have the tools to create meaningful psychological separation between self and other. This can feel overwhelming and confusing, and it is one of the reasons why many empathic people in early stages of development describe their sensitivity as a burden rather than a gift. Stage 2. Helena, the pursuit of beauty and external value. The second stage is represented by Helen of Troy, the archetype of beauty, romance, and the pursuit of value through external means. At this stage, the person has moved beyond pure instinct into a more social and relational mode of being. They are seeking connection, recognition, and validation. They are beginning to understand that their emotional life has meaning, that what they feel matters. But they are still largely oriented outward. Their sense of worth and identity is heavily tied to how others perceive them, how much they are loved or admired, and how successfully they can attract and maintain meaningful relationships. For an empathic person, the Helena stage often manifests as a period of intense relationship focus, sometimes to an unhealthy degree. They become deeply attuned to what others need and want, developing remarkable social sensitivity and interpersonal intelligence. But this sensitivity still lacks firm boundaries and clear self-definition. The empath in this stage is often genuinely gifted at connection and emotional attunement. But they may also be prone to losing themselves in relationships, prioritizing the needs and feelings of others at the expense of their own well-being. Stage 3. Maria, the sacrifice and the trap of martyrdom. The third stage, and the one where the vast majority of empathic individuals remain stuck, sometimes for decades or even for their entire lives, is represented by the archetype of Mary, the Mother. This stage is characterized by profound devotion, self-sacrifice, and an almost spiritual orientation toward the service and care of others. The Maria stage empath has developed genuine compassion in its deepest sense. They don't merely feel what others feel. They are motivated to respond, to help, to heal, to support. This is where the empath's gifts become most visible to the world, and where the trap closes most completely. The Maria stage empath believes, often unconsciously, that their worth as a person is inseparable from their usefulness to others. They measure their value in terms of how much they give, how much they endure, and how effectively they can soothe the pain of those around them. They are the person everyone calls in a crisis. They are the friend who shows up at 3 a.m. They are the partner who absorbs emotional chaos and never complains. They are, in the most literal sense, indispensable to everyone around them, and utterly depleted within themselves. The Maria stage is not without its profound beauty. The devotion, the capacity for love, the genuine selflessness that characterizes this phase of development represents an extraordinary achievement of human emotional growth. But it comes at an enormous cost. The empath in this stage has not yet learned the crucial distinction between compassion and self-abandonment. They have not yet integrated what Jung called the shadow, the darker, more assertive, more self-protective dimensions of their own nature. And without that integration, they remain vulnerable to exploitation, to burnout, and to the slow erosion of their own identity through the relentless demands of being everything to everyone. Stage 4, Sophia, the integration of wisdom and the birth of sovereignty. And then there is Sophia, named for the ancient Greek goddess of wisdom, a figure who appears across the multiple traditions, from Greek philosophy to Gnostic theology to early Christian mysticism. This stage represents the complete, integrated flowering of everything the empath has developed across all previous stages. The instinctive attunement of Eva, the social intelligence of Helena, the profound compassion of Maria. But now, all of these capacities are held within a framework of deep self-knowledge, psychological wholeness, and unshakable inner authority. The empath who reaches the Sophia stage does not feel less. If anything, their capacity for depth of feeling has expanded beyond anything they experienced in earlier stages. But the way they hold that feeling has been completely transformed. They are no longer at the mercy of their sensitivity. They are its master. They no longer absorb the emotional chaos of others involuntarily. They choose when and how to engage. They no longer sacrifice themselves in order to help. They help from a position of genuine abundance, offering their gifts from strength rather than from the anxious need to be needed. Most profoundly, the Sophia stage empath has integrated their shadow. They have made peace with the parts of themselves that earlier stages required them to suppress. Their anger, their boundaries, their refusal to be used, their capacity for judgment and discernment. These are no longer threatening aspects of their personality that they hide or deny. They are tools, sophisticated, finely calibrated instruments that allow them to navigate the full complexity of human interaction with both compassion and wisdom intact simultaneously. Section 2. Why the Sophia stage empath is considered psychologically dangerous. Here is where many people find themselves genuinely surprised. The word dangerous does not seem like it should apply to someone who has developed the highest possible form of wisdom, compassion, and emotional intelligence. And yet, If you ask anyone who has attempted to manipulate, deceive, or exploit a person who has genuinely reached the Sophia stage, they will tell you, there is nothing quite as disorienting as trying to run your usual games on someone who sees through them completely. Let's be precise about what we mean by dangerous. We are not talking about aggression. We are not talking about vengeance or retribution. We are not talking about someone who fights back in the conventional sense. The danger that a Sophia stage empath represents to narcissists, manipulators, and energy vampires is far more subtle and far more absolute than any of those things. It is the danger of total transparency, the danger of being seen. The average empath, at earlier stages of development, can be manipulated with relative ease precisely because of their sensitivity. Their deep desire to relieve the suffering of others makes them susceptible to guilt tripping. Their tendency toward self-sacrifice makes them easy targets for people who are skilled at playing the victim. Their hunger for deep connection and their willingness to give the benefit of the doubt makes them vulnerable to those who mimic emotional intimacy without genuinely experiencing it. In short, the very qualities that make empaths so valuable in authentic relationships also make them targets in relationships that are not authentic. But the Sophia stage empath has developed something that fundamentally changes this dynamic. They can see the shadow. Jung used the concept of the shadow to describe the hidden, unconscious dimensions of a person's psychology, the aspects of themselves that they have not acknowledged, integrated, or taken responsibility for. One of these shadow aspects don't disappear simply because a person refuses to look at them. They express themselves indirectly through patterns of behavior, emotional reactions, and relationship dynamics that are driven by forces the person themselves may not consciously understand. The Sophia stage empath can perceive these shadow dynamics with remarkable clarity. They don't need someone to explicitly reveal their intentions in order to understand what those intentions are. They read the gap between what a person says and what their behavior actually demonstrates. They notice the micro-inconsistencies that reveal when someone is performing an emotion rather than genuinely experiencing it. They sense the agenda beneath the presentation, the fear beneath the aggression, the need beneath the manipulation, and crucially, they know what to do with this knowledge. Not to punish, not to broadcast, but to protect themselves. To set boundaries that are so clear and so firmly grounded that there is simply no gap through which manipulation can enter. The narcissist who approaches a Sophia stage empath hoping for the usual supply of admiration, validation, or emotional reactivity finds themselves profoundly disoriented by the response they receive. Or rather, the response they don't receive. Calm, clarity, a polite but absolutely unmovable refusal to play the game. This is why Sophia is considered dangerous. Not because she attacks, but because she cannot be used. And for a manipulator, for a person whose entire relational strategy depends on finding and exploiting the emotional vulnerabilities of others, encountering someone who simply doesn't have those vulnerabilities accessible, someone whose sensitivity has been transmuted into discernment, is a genuinely destabilizing experience. There is also a secondary dimension to this that is worth understanding. The Sophia stage empath does not merely protect themselves. Their very presence in a social environment raises the psychological temperature of honesty. People around them tend to become more genuine, almost involuntarily, because the Sophia's capacity for seeing the truth makes pretense feel both exhausting and unnecessary. This is a form of social influence that operates entirely without coercion. It functions simply through the quality of attention and consciousness that the Sophia brings to any interaction. Section 3. The transition from sacrifice to sovereignty. The most difficult passage. Understanding the Sophia stage intellectually is one thing. Actually making the transition from the Maria stage, from the beautiful, exhausting, identity-consuming devotion of the self-sacrificing empath, to the sovereign authority of Sophia is something else entirely. It is, without question, the most psychologically demanding passage of the entire empathic journey. And the reason for that difficulty is both profound and, once you understand it, deeply poignant. The Maria stage empath has built their entire sense of identity, purpose, and worth around being needed. Not in a cynical way, in a genuinely heartfelt way. They have come to believe, at the deepest level, that their value as a human being is located in their capacity to give, to serve, to sustain, and to heal. This belief did not emerge from nowhere. For many empathic individuals, it developed as a response to early experiences in which their emotional needs were not met, in which they learned that the safest and most reliable way to secure love and connection was to make themselves indispensable to others, to be so useful, so giving, so reliably there that people could not afford to abandon them. This strategy is not irrational. In many early environments, it was genuinely adaptive. It worked. But what serves survival in a difficult early environment can become a prison in adult life. And the prison of the Maria stage empath is one of the most comfortable and the most invisible prisons that exist, precisely because it is built from virtues: compassion, generosity, devotion, service. How do you give yourself permission to stop being so selfless? How do you justify saying no when your entire identity has been constructed around saying yes? Jung's answer, and it is an answer that takes most people considerable time and often considerable pain to genuinely assimilate, is that you must integrate your shadow. The shadow, in Jungian terms, is not evil. It is simply the repository of everything you have not yet acknowledged about yourself. For an empath operating in the Maria stage, the shadow typically contains qualities like firmness, assertiveness, the capacity for anger, the ability to say no without explanation or apology, the willingness to allow others to experience the consequences of their own choices, and perhaps most fundamentally, the recognition that you have needs too, needs that are just as real and just as legitimate as the needs of everyone else you have spent your life tending to. Integrating these shadow qualities does not mean becoming cold. It does not mean becoming selfish. It does not mean abandoning your compassion or betraying your nature. It means becoming whole. It means allowing yourself to be a full human being rather than a carefully curated version of one that only shows the aspects deemed safe and lovable and indispensable to others. One of the most transformative realizations of the Sophia transition is this: genuine help does not always look like relief. Sometimes, the most loving and most genuinely helpful thing you can do for another person is to allow them to carry their own burden, not because you don't care, but because you understand something that your earlier self did not. Carrying someone's weight for them does not strengthen them. It prevents them from developing the very capacities they need in order to eventually stand on their own. There is a profound difference between compassion that empowers and compassion that enables. The Sophia stage empath has learned to distinguish between the two, and the ability to make that distinction and to act on it even when it feels uncomfortable is one of the clearest markers of psychological sovereignty. This transition requires a particular kind of grief. You are letting go not just of behaviors, but of an identity. The identity of the helper, the healer, the one who holds everything together. This identity has served you in many ways. It has brought you connection, purpose, and a sense of meaning. Releasing it feels, at first, like a kind of death. But what dies is not your compassion. What dies is the idea that your compassion must come at the price of yourself. And what is born in its place is something far more powerful. The understanding that you can only give genuinely and sustainably from a place of genuine fullness. That self-care is not selfishness. It is the precondition of authentic service. The path to Sophia runs directly through this understanding. And it is a path that requires courage. The specific kind of courage it takes to disappoint people who have come to depend on your self-erasure, to tolerate the temporary discomfort of others' unhappiness with your new boundaries, and to trust that the relationships that survive your becoming more fully yourself are the ones worth having in the first place. Section 4. The signs. How to know if you are activating the Sophia stage. The Sophia stage does not arrive as a single dramatic event or a sudden revelation. It is, more accurately, a gradual emergence, a slow brightening of a light that has always been present within you, but that was previously obscured by layers of fear, conditioning, and the accumulated weight of other people's needs. However, there are specific, recognizable signs that indicate you are beginning to enter this stage of development. These are not achievements to check off a list. They are organic changes in how you experience yourself and the world around you. They tend to emerge naturally as the integration deepens. So sign 1, an unusual stillness in the face of chaos. One of the most striking and most frequently reported experiences of people entering the Sophia stage is a qualitative change in how they respond to chaotic, emotionally charged, or crisis-level situations. Where once they would have been pulled immediately into the emotional vortex of whatever was happening around them, absorbing the panic, the distress, or the conflict, and responding from within that absorbed state. They now find themselves able to stand at a slight remove. Not detached, not indifferent, but observant, present without being consumed. This quality, what we might describe as the capacity to hold space without being destabilized by what you are holding, is one of the hallmarks of genuine psychological integration. When everyone around you is losing their composure, when the emotional temperature of a situation is climbing rapidly, the Sophia stage empath does not simply suppress their own emotional response through sheer willpower. They have genuinely expanded their psychological container to the point where they can hold more without being overwhelmed. They see the whole picture, the dynamics beneath the drama, the fears driving the behavior, the pattern that explains the apparent chaos. And this comprehensive seeing creates its own kind of stillness. Others often experience this quality as deeply reassuring. The Sophia's calmness in crisis is not the calmness of someone who doesn't care. It is the calmness of someone who understands and who trusts that understanding to guide them more reliably than reactive emotion could. People instinctively sense this difference. They tend to orient toward the Sophia in difficult moments, not because they have positioned themselves as a leader or authority figure, but simply because their steadiness is palpable, genuine, and profoundly grounding. Sign 2. The release of validation seeking. A second powerful indicator of the Sophia stage is a fundamental shift in your relationship with external approval and validation. This is not the kind of change that happens because you have decided to care less about what people think. You cannot think your way into this shift. It happens because something deeper within you has genuinely changed. Your internal compass has become sufficiently calibrated that you no longer require external confirmation to know what is true, what is right, or what you value. This does not mean that you become indifferent to feedback or that you stop caring about meaningful relationships. The Sophia stage empath typically cares deeply about the people in their lives and values authentic connection as profoundly as ever. But there is a crucial difference between caring about someone's perspective because they know you and love you, and their view genuinely matters to you, and needing someone's approval in order to feel secure in your own identity and decisions. The first is healthy relational attunement. The second is a form of psychological dependency that the Sophia transition gradually dissolves. When this shift occurs, solitude stops being frightening and starts being restorative. The empath who once experienced being alone as a kind of abandonment, as evidence that they were not needed enough, not valued enough, discovers that aloneness has a different quality now. It is spacious. It is quiet in a way that feels nourishing rather than empty. The internal landscape that was once so dominated by the needs and expectations of others becomes a place they actually want to inhabit. A home, rather than a territory to be escaped through constant connection and activity. Sign 3. The development of prophetic intuition. Perhaps the most striking of the Sophia Stage indicators, and the one that tends to most surprise and sometimes unsettle those who experience it, is the development of what can only be described as a form of prophetic intuition. This is not mysticism, and it is not magic. It is the natural result of several developmental achievements converging. Deep self-knowledge, extensive experience of human psychology, and the integration of shadow, and the removal of the emotional static that previously made clear perception difficult. When you no longer need something from another person, when you are not hungry for their approval, not afraid of their anger, not dependent on their love, you can see them with a clarity that is genuinely extraordinary. You are not filtering your perception of them through your own needs and fears. You are simply observing. And what you observe, when your perception is this unobstructed, is remarkable in its precision. The Sophia Stage empath often finds themselves knowing how a situation will unfold before it does. They sense the intentions behind someone's words before those intentions are acted upon. They feel the shape of a relationship's trajectory, where it is headed, what dynamics are in play, what is likely to happen next, with an accuracy that can seem uncanny to those around them. This is not because they have somehow transcended ordinary human perception. It is because they have cleared away so much of the interference that ordinarily distorts it. They are reading the same signals that are available to everyone, but with a clarity and a depth of interpretive capacity that most people never develop. Sign 4. Authentic boundaries that require no defense. Another hallmark of the Sophia Stage is a radical transformation in the quality and character of the boundaries the empath establishes. In earlier stages, boundary setting tends to be anxiety-laden, guilt-ridden, and frequently unsuccessful. Because the boundary is being set from within a framework that simultaneously believes the boundary is necessary and fears that setting it will result in loss of love or connection. This internal conflict leaks through in how boundaries are communicated, and it is precisely this leakage that skilled manipulators learn to exploit. The Sophia Stage empath sets boundaries differently. There is no internal conflict to leak. The boundary is not set from a place of fear or desperation. It is established from a place of complete clarity about what the empath values, what is acceptable in their life, and what is not. And because this clarity is genuine and deeply rooted, the boundary requires no elaborate explanation, no apology, and no aggressive defense. It simply is, and it has the quality of something that was always true, now being stated plainly. People on the receiving end of Sophia-level boundaries often describe the experience as strangely final. Not harsh, not cold, but unmistakably real. There is no gap in it. There is no ambivalence to probe, no guilt to leverage, no fear to exploit. The empath is not angry. They are not suffering. They are simply clear. And that clarity, in the presence of someone who expected the usual emotional negotiation, is profoundly disorienting. Sign 5. The transmutation of pain into wisdom. One of the most beautiful and most significant signs of Sophia-level development is a changed relationship with suffering. Specifically, with the suffering you have already endured. The empath who has not yet reached this stage tends to carry their wounds in one of two ways. Either they repress them, pushing the pain down and out of conscious awareness, where it continues to influence behavior invisibly, or they identify with them, allowing the wound to become a central organizing principle of their identity. I am someone who was hurt. I am someone who trusted and was betrayed. I am someone who gave everything and got nothing back. The Sophia Stage empath has done something neither of these things. They have metabolized their suffering. The pain has been consciously processed, genuinely felt in its full depth and intensity, and then, not suppressed, not denied, but truly worked through. It has been integrated. It has become part of the foundation of their wisdom rather than a wound that continues to bleed. But they are not defined by what was done to them. They are, in a very real sense, forged by it. The experiences that once threatened to destroy them have become the very source of their deepest understanding. This transmutation is visible to others in the quality of presence the Sophia empath brings to difficult conversations. They can sit with someone else's pain without flinching, not because they are numb to it, but because they have been to that place themselves and they know the territory. They know that pain, met with genuine presence and compassionate clarity, does not destroy people. It initiates them, and they can hold that knowledge gently for someone who is still in the middle of their own initiation, offering not false comfort or easy reassurance, but the quiet, the steady companionship of someone who has walked that road and knows it leads somewhere worth reaching. Section 5. The Sophia in relationships. How this stage changes everything. One of the most immediate and most dramatic arenas in which the Sophia transition becomes visible is in the quality and character of the empath's relationships. The shift from Maria stage to Sophia stage does not simply change how the empath behaves in relationships. It fundamentally changes which relationships they enter into, what they tolerate, what they attract, and what they offer. In earlier stages, the empathic individual often finds themselves drawn into relationships characterized by significant imbalance. They give, others take. They stabilize, others destabilize. They provide emotional labor, others consume it. This pattern is not accidental, as it reflects the Maria stage empath's unconscious beliefs about their role in relationships and their deeply held conviction that they must earn love through service. Narcissistic and emotionally unavailable individuals are particularly drawn to Maria stage empaths, precisely because the empath's pattern of self-sacrifice creates exactly the conditions that allow exploitative relational dynamics to thrive. As the Sophia transition occurs, this pattern dissolves, sometimes abruptly, sometimes gradually, but always completely. The Sophia stage empath becomes, in a very real sense, incompatible with exploitative relational dynamics. Not because they refuse to connect with imperfect people. All people are imperfect, and the Sophia's compassion remains fully intact. But because they simply will not sustain the conditions that allow exploitation to continue. Their clarity about their own value, combined with their unflinching perception of patterns and dynamics, means that manipulative or parasitic relationship patterns cannot take hold the way they once did. What the Sophia stage empath attracts instead is remarkable. People who are genuinely interested in authentic connection. people who want to be known rather than merely served. People who have done their own psychological work, who bring their own wholeness to the relationship, rather than their own need to be completed or rescued. The shift in the quality of relationships that accompanies the Sophia transition is one of the most life-altering and most gratifying dimensions of this development. And it is also worth noting what the Sophia empath brings to relationships at this stage, which is something qualitatively different from what they were capable of offering in earlier stages. They bring genuine presence. They bring the capacity for authentic intimacy that only comes when two people can truly see each other. Not the version of each other they most want to be seen as, but the real, complex, shadow-integrated truth of who they actually are. The Sophia empath can hold this kind of witnessing for another person without being frightened by what they see, without needing to manage or fix or rescue. They can simply see, and in that seeing, offer something that is among the rarest and most precious gifts one human being can offer another, the experience of being fully known and fully accepted simultaneously. In Section 6, the shadow work that makes Sophia possible. No discussion of the Sophia stage would be complete without a serious examination of the shadow work that is its prerequisite. Jung was unequivocal on this point. You cannot reach Sophia without first descending into your own darkness, not the darkness of others, your own. The aspects of yourself that you have judged, suppressed, denied, or that you have never even consciously acknowledged. For the empathic person, shadow work carries its own particular complexity. The empath's shadow is often composed of precisely the qualities that their social environment has taught them to view as dangerous, shameful, or unloving. Anger, selfishness, judgment, the desire for power, the capacity for indifference, the ability to withdraw care. And these are not qualities that empaths typically celebrate. They are qualities that most empaths have spent significant portions of their lives working very hard not to embody. Because embodying them felt like becoming the very thing they feared and despised. The person who causes harm, the person who doesn't care, the person who lets others down. But here is what Jung understood, and what every person who has done genuine shadow work eventually discovers. The shadow does not disappear when you refuse to look at it. It simply goes underground, where it continues to influence your behavior, your choices, and your relationships in ways you cannot consciously track or manage. The anger you won't acknowledge doesn't stop existing. It expresses itself as passive aggression, as martyrdom, as the resentment that builds invisibly beneath years of saying yes when you meant no. The judgment you refuse to own doesn't dissolve. It leaks through in the relationships you subtly and unconsciously sabotage, in the assumptions you make about people that you would never consciously endorse. Integration, the process of consciously acknowledging, accepting, and incorporating your shadow qualities, does not mean acting them out indiscriminately. It means recognizing that anger is not always wrong. Sometimes it is the most accurate and appropriate response to injustice. And owning it allows you to express it constructively and purposefully, rather than destructively or not at all. It means recognizing that judgment is not always unkind. Sometimes discernment is the most protective and loving capacity you can bring to a situation. And it means recognizing that the desire for your own needs to be met is not selfishness. It is the most basic expression of self-respect and the foundation of sustainable giving. The process of shadow integration is rarely comfortable. It requires you to sit with aspects of yourself that you have perhaps spent years or even decades avoiding. It requires a quality of honest self-witness that can be genuinely difficult. Not because the shadow is as monstrous as you feared, but because looking at it directly requires you to let go of a self-image that has served important functions even as it has limited you. The identity of the purely good, endlessly compassionate, never angry, always giving person is not just a persona, it is a fortress. And like all fortresses, it offers both protection and confinement simultaneously. But on the other side of this process is something extraordinary. Wholeness. The experience of being fully yourself, all of yourself, in a way that is neither fragmenting nor overwhelming, but deeply, groundedly, sustainably true. This is the psychological soil in which Sophia grows. And it is from this soil, from this integration of light and shadow, strength and vulnerability, giving and receiving, care for others and care for self, that the full power of the Sophia Stage empath eventually emerges. Reaching the Sophia Stage is not a destination you arrive at once and remain at permanently, effortlessly, and without ongoing attention. It is more accurately described as an orientation, a direction of travel, a quality of psychological stance that becomes increasingly stable and increasingly available as the integration deepens. There will still be days when old patterns resurface. There will still be moments of doubt, of grief, of the old pull toward self-sacrifice, and the old fear of being too much or not enough. These moments are not failures. They are part of the ongoing process of being human. And the Sophia Stage empath meets them with exactly the quality that characterizes this stage at its fullest. Compassion, including, and perhaps especially, compassion for themselves. What makes this journey worth every painful, disorienting, grief-soaked step is not a destination of invulnerability or transcendence. The Sophia Stage empath is not above the experience of being human. They are, if anything, more fully within it than ever before. More present to its complexity, its beauty, its absurdity, and its sorrow. What changes is not the depth of the experience. What changes is the capacity to hold it. The psychological container has expanded. The inner foundation has deepened. And from that expanded capacity and that deepened foundation, everything, every relationship, every interaction, every challenge, every moment of beauty can be met with something that we might call the highest expression of what empathy was always capable of being. Not just feeling the truth of another person's experience, but seeing it with clarity, holding it with compassion, responding to it with wisdom, and remaining through all of it, irreducibly and sovereignly yourself. Your sensitivity was never the problem. It was always the beginning of the solution. The journey from the raw vulnerability of the earliest stages to the integrated sovereignty of Sophia is the full arc of the empathic potential. And every empath who commits to this path, who is willing to do the shadow work, to grieve the old identities, to sit with the discomfort of their own becoming, is contributing something genuinely essential to the fabric of human consciousness. The world does not need fewer empaths. It needs more Sophias. Reaching the Sophia Stage is the journey of a lifetime. A path where your sensitivity stops being a weakness and becomes your most powerful and most irreplaceable gift. I want to hear from you. Do you recognize yourself in any of these signs? Are you in the thick of the transition right now, navigating the grief and the growing pains of releasing old identities and old patterns? Or does the Sophia Stage still feel like a distant horizon, something you are moving toward but have not yet reached? Whatever your experience, it is valid and it is valuable. Your story matters, and sharing it in the comments may be exactly what someone else needs to hear in order to take their next step on this path. If this exploration has given you a new understanding of your own potential, if it has offered you a different way of seeing your sensitivity, your struggles, and your growth, then consider subscribing to this channel and turning on notifications so that you never miss our next deep dive into the extraordinary landscape of the human mind. We have so much more to explore together, and if you want to continue this particular thread of inquiry right now, the video appearing on your screen is our full exploration of Jungian shadow integration, the precise psychological process that makes the Sophia stage possible. I will see you there, and I will see you on the next stage of the journey inward.